Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Kalpataru Power Transmission Limited and JMC Project, hosted by DAM Capital Advisors Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Bhumika Nair from DAM Capital Advisors Limited. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Rituja. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Kalpataru Power Transmission and JMC Project 1Q FY22 earnings call. We have the management today being represented by Mr. Manish Mohnot, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Amit Uplenchwar, Director Group Strategy and Subsidiaries Operation, Mr. Ram Patodia, President Finance and CFO, and Mr. S.K. Tripathi, Managing Director and CEO, JMC Project. I'll now hand over the floor to Mr. Manish Mohnot for his initial remarks, post which we'll open up the floor for Q&A. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bhumika. Welcome everyone and very good day to all of you. I'm thankful to you for attending this earnings call of KPTL and JMC. Before I move into details of our financial performance for Q1, I will quickly share an update on our business operations and status of long-term assets. Both KPTL and JMC have reported year-on-year revenue and profitability growth despite the challenges posed by lockdown in many states due to emergence of second wave of COVID. We are able to record much better business growth compared to similar period last year. Our business continuity plans and technology-backed systems and processes have helped us to ensure execution across all our projects. The current business environment continues to remain difficult with unprecedented increase in international freight charges and rising commodity prices. Additionally, the supply chain issues are leading to pressure on margins and delays in tower and other material dispatches. However, we remain confident to navigate the volatile environment by diligently managing our cash flows, optimizing our cost, and improving our working capital cycle. We have received record order inflows of rupees 5,524 crores at consolidated level till date in financial year 22. Our business outlook for all of our businesses remain robust, and we remain confident to achieve our targeted order inflows for the full year at consolidated level. We made considerable progress on restructuring of road BOT assets. We are at advanced stages of restructuring for Kurukshetra and Wainganga road assets and expect the process to get completed by end of Q2 itself. We are progressing well on completing the sale of Vindhyachal road BOT asset and expect the sale to be completed in Q3 of the current year. The closure of Kohima-Mariami transaction was affected due to COVID. We expect deal closure in second half of 22. We have already received major approvals pertaining to the deal. Coming now to the financial performance first. At KPTL consolidated level, our consolidated revenue grew by 38% YOY to 3,204 crores on back of strong execution in T&D, B&F, water, railways, and oil and gas business. Our EBITDA in absolute terms grew by 10% to 297 crores. Our EBITDA of the same quarter last year included 40 crores related to Alipurduar transmission assets, which were finally sold off. Excluding the one-time impact of this T&D SPV, EBITDA went from 229 crores to 297 crores, a growth of 30% year-on-year. Our corresponding EBITDA margin contracted by 50 basis points from 9.8 to 9.3%. Our EBITDA margin was marginally lower compared to Q1 21, given the impact of higher commodity prices, supply chain issues, and COVID-related costs. However, we remain confident to maintain double-digit margin in the range of 10% plus for the full year 22 at a consolidated level. Our PBT grew by 135% to 127 crores and PAT grew by 179% to 78 crores. Our consolidated net debt is at 2946 crores, which is a decline of 428 crores compared to same period last year. We recorded order inflows of over 5,500 crores till date at consolidated level and additionally have L1 position of over 5,000 crores. We have a strong and well-diversified order book of over rupees 29,000 crores at the end of June, excluding the L1 numbers as of today. Now at standalone level, at KPTL, revenue for Q1 grew by 9% year-on-year to 1,586 crores. Our T&D revenues, including Linjemontage and Fasttel, grew by around 12%. Oil and gas grew by 28% and railways grew by 23% in Q1 22. Our Sweden subsidiary Linjemontage reported revenue growth of 15% to 312 crores with EBITDA margin in range of 7%. Our Brazil subsidiary Fasttel recorded revenue of 95 crores in Q1 22. Our PBT grew by 15% to 116 crores and PAT grew by 10% to rupees 76 crores. We continue to maintain double-digit EBITDA margin of 10.2% despite increase in commodity price and rise in logistics cost. Our net debt increased to rupees 1,222 crores on account of lower collections due to COVID. However, relaxations in travel restrictions and resumption of business collections have started to improve from July 22 onwards, and debt has reduced at the end of July. We are targeting to reduce our standalone debt substantially with the help of inflows from sale of Kohima transmission asset, our collections on Indore project, our focused efforts on project closure, and optimizing our working capital. At KPTL, we received orders of 865 crores till date in financial year 22. Additionally, we have L1 of rupees 2,550 crores. We have witnessed delays in tendering activities and finalization of orders. However, we expect ordering to pick up in the next few months. Our standalone order book at the end of June 21 was rupees 13,397 crores. At JMC standalone level, our revenue grew by 139%, was driven by robust execution across all segments. JMC's EBITDA margin improved compared to last year, but were impacted due to job mix, rise in material costs, and COVID-related expenses. Most of the contracts in JMC have pass-through clause and will be billed to the client during the year. Our PBT and PAT improved by 163% and 173% respectively. Our net debt at JMC is 717 crores at the end of June 21. Our debt levels remain in line with business growth. However, for the year end, we are targeting to maintain JMC debt at similar levels as at the end of March 2021, approximately 500 crores. At JMC, we received order inflows of 4,659 crores till date in financial year 22. This includes two large orders we received in Africa. Additionally, JMC has L1 position of 2,500 crores, mainly in water and international B&F projects. Our JMC's order book was at an all-time high of 15,916 crores at the end of June 21. The performance of road BOOT projects was affected due to regional lockdowns and travel restrictions. Our average daily revenue of all four road assets were rupees 45.5 lakhs per day in Q1 22. Our toll collections in Kurukshetra road project continue to remain affected due to farmers' agitation. In Q1 22, we have made an additional investment of around rupees 53 crores in our road projects, taking the total investment to rupees 926 crores at the end of June 21 in all our four road projects put together. At Shubham Logistics, revenue was 38 crores, a growth of 15% with EBITDA of around 8 crores and PAT of 1.2 crores. As guided earlier, we'll continue to maintain profitability in Shubham Logistics. Our well-diversified current order book provides good visibility for 22. We are confident to deliver consolidated revenue in excess of 15% for full year 22, while we navigate the near-term challenges and continue our hard work to scale to double-digit margins. With that, we can open up the call for questions.
Thank you very much. So we'll now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi sir, my first question is on the asset business. So you highlighted that WEPL and KPL will see some kind of restructuring or finalization of terms with regards to payment by this quarter. So just wanted to know why we need to increase 53 crores and we are near completion of restructuring, and for the rest of the year, how much of loss funding will be required post the transaction happens.
Hi, Karpal. Good morning, SKT here. So, as we have said, WEPL and KEPL restructuring is moving ahead, but this infusion of the money is retrospective with respect to the cutoff date. And whensoever the restructuring gets implemented, there will be a reversal of these investments which the company will get, right? So our cutoff dates are about a year old or 8 months behind, and restructuring when gets implemented in Q2 or Q3, out of this 53 crore, about 28 crore, there will be a reversal in the books. So this is one part. The second part is our revenue has come down from 60 lakh rupee per day to 45 lakh rupee per day due to the COVID and the locking down of one of the toll plazas due to farmer agitation. And overall, due to the COVID, there has been revenue reduction. So that 60 lakh has come down to 45 lakh. So that has an impact of about 15 crore. So if we take these two things out of 53, that answers that how much is the tangible investment which has gone into this. And as we complete the process towards the Q2 end, some more infusion may be required depending on the traffic and how the situation unfolds on the ground. So we can't give an exact figure that how much it will be, but it should be minimal going forward if the situation improves. But if the COVID and the lockdown, they continue across those areas, particularly KEPL, where one of the toll plazas is locked down from last 6-7 months, right? So there could be further infusion required in the KEPL. Similar situation will be there in VEPL. There also traffic has come down, but their only silver lining is that since we have done the non-binding offer with the respective buyers, whensoever the sale happens, there will be a reversal in the books.
My second question was on Kohima. So we were expecting that this deal will get closed during this quarter and major approvals have already come in. So why is it getting delayed to second half? Is the deal still intact with the investor, or are you looking at alternatives or other investors to come in?
So Kohima, as we mentioned earlier also in my call for Q4, we have received major approvals. The line is fully functioning and at 100% operational. There are a few approvals which are pending, a few approvals at the banking level which are pending, and a few approvals from a regulatory side which are pending. We stay committed, we continue to be committed on making sure that the deal gets completed in Q2. We have been chasing this respective teams for approval, but last few months were difficult because some of the employees in those respective organizations were not working. We're pretty confident that Q2 we should be able to close this deal. As of now, we stand committed and looks like we will be able to receive the inflows itself in Q2.
Okay. Just last question on the commodity inflation. So we are really not seeing any impact in the KPL standalone. So were there any reversals or provisions taken earlier in this quarter also to offset the impact of commodity prices? And also lastly, if you can touch upon the ramp-up of Fasttel. So how has been the margin there and how has been the integration and ramp-up in Fasttel in Brazil?
Sure. So on commodities, we had taken a significant hit in Q4 on CTC losses of approximately 140 crores. We have not seen significant reversal out of that coming in Q1. Some reversal would have come, but commodity prices have slightly gone up. So to that extent, we still continue to hold the CTC provision in our books. So that's on commodities. As far as Fasttel is concerned, the EBITDA margins were in the range of around 3%. It was not around 4% to be precise. And on the current order book, we're confident that they will have an EBITDA margin of 4 to 5%. We are cautious on growth in that market as of today. Our focus as of today is to make sure that we integrate the team fully. Our senior people are already at Brazil. 2 or 3 of our resources are already there for the last 3-4 months, including a senior finance resource. So our aim for the current year is to make sure that, one, we integrate with them. Second, we ensure that we clearly bring out the benefits of synergy, where we look at supply chain, bought out materials, all of them, and grow slowly in the current environment.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all from me.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ranjit Shivram from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, if you can update on the order intake prospects for FY22 and how much will that come from the domestic and which are the overseas geographies we are seeing traction, and what's the scenario in Indian and also the non-T&D railways and pipeline.
Sure. See, our order intake for the current year will continue to be in the range of 16,000 plus crores as we had targeted at the beginning of the year on a consolidated level. At a standalone level, we expect KPTL to be in the range of 9,000 crores and JMC to be in the range of 7,500 to 8,000 crores. Out of the 9,000 crores, we expect railways and oil and gas to be having respective order book inflows of around 2,000 crores each and 5,000 to come from TL overall. Out of TL, significant portion we expect to come from TLI. TLI order book inflow target is around $400+ million. And we're pretty confident that we should be able to get that during the year.
Okay, and regarding railways and pipeline?
So I mentioned that earlier, railways and oil and gas, the order intake target for the current year is around 2,000 crores. Out of which as of today, we have visibility for railways. We've already got orders of 500 odd crores, and pipeline we are L1 in approximately 500 crores as of now.
Okay, and regarding this Kohima Mariani, there was some issue in terms of this PLC not getting qualified, and we have to look for some other party. So what status is that?
No, I am not aware of any such issue in Kohima Mariani. We are committed to doing the deal with CLP. They have got the relevant approvals from the government, including the FIPP and all the approvals. So we had this issue at ATL earlier, which was last year, and that's why we had to sell it to some other organization. But as far as KMTL is concerned, I'm not aware of any such issues. We are on track to going ahead and doing this deal with CLP.
Okay, so there is no issue in terms of CLP in this particular transaction?
No, there are no such issues.
Okay, and so what's our target debt for this year, or the net cash level? How are we looking at for KPTL now?
So we continue to stay committed to our targets of negligible debt at the year end, because we expect the cash flows out of KMTL and Indore to come significantly in the current year. So we continue to stay targeted at negligible debts closer to zero level at KPTL standalone level.
Okay, and any more capital commitments which we have made for Shubham or any of the subsidiaries from KPTL standalone, or is all the subsidiaries will be able to take care of themselves?
As of today, we have no capital commitments for any of our subsidiaries, including Shubham. I think they are now moving in the right direction of profitable growth. So we do not see any capital commitments to any of the subsidiaries in the near future.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'll join for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question, please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Renu.
Hi. So my first question is, when we look at the core KPTL portfolio, we have seen increased competition coming across oil and gas pipeline and T&D market also after easing of government requirements for advances as well as EMDs. So how are we looking at the competitive environment, and will that have a bearing in terms of the margin profile? Also, given the fact that you have a significant international order pipeline now with steel prices at elevated levels, does the relative attractiveness of international TLT business significantly improve?
Okay. So, Renu, I think, you've been associated with this industry for long. So having competitive pressure is actually something which we have seen regularly, right? This is not something new for us. The good part is that the competitive pressure is a lot more realistic. We're not seeing unrealistic competitive pressure. So unlike those days which we had seen 7-8 years ago where people used to bid at a 20, 25, 30% difference to L1, now it's a lot more realistic. And in realistic competitive pressure, I think we will continue to do well, given our advantage on cost, given our focus on delivery, and given our size and scale. So from a competitive pressure perspective, I'm not too much worried, at least on transmission international, T&D domestic, as well as oil and gas. Yes, at railways, we have seen some unprecedented competitive pressure coming from a lot of road contractors. But again, as I said, it's not something new. We've seen this 4 years ago, and you see people who really do well continue being in that business and others not being in the business over a period of time. We continue to stay focused on a profitable growth, right? That's more important for us. The one common thing for KPTL over the last 10, 15 years is making sure that we have profitable growth and making sure that we focus on working capital. So with that, I do not see much pressure coming in. And even if it comes in, I'm very clear. We will not compromise on profit for growth.
Sure.
That's one side. On the international front, yes, you're right. Oil and gas now is seeing a lot of traction. Over the last few months or over the last quarter, we submitted tenders in 5 or 6 countries. A few of them, we just missed it. One of them, I know we missed it with 0.5% in one of the Middle East geographies. We continue to remain focused on that and pretty confident that in the current year, we should at least have a few international projects in oil and gas. As far as international transmission opportunities are concerned, we had some setback. All of you all are aware out of the World Bank debacle which happened last year. We should be getting out of it very, very soon. There's hardly any time left. And from that time onwards, our opportunity will increase a lot more. So we continue to stay bullish on international TLI, and I'm confident that we're looking at a 15% plus growth for that business for the current year.
Sure. So the second question would be to understand in JMC, given that there has been some weakness owing to cost issues in this quarter, broadly, how should we look at the margin profile for the current year and from a next 2 to 3 year perspective, also with the backdrop of improving mix and order backlog volume?
Yeah. So JMC, as we said in the beginning of the call, we will remain on a double-digit margin. This current quarter is primarily due to the job mix which we are handling, as well as some pressure on the prices of the materials, for which the escalation will get realized in the later quarters. Because most of our 90% of our contracts are pass-through, and hence we should not be looking this quarter in the isolation. As far as the next 2-3 year horizon is concerned, things look much better because of the water order book as well as the international order book, and we should be on the double-digit growth journey going ahead.
And
Just
broadly,
to add to what SKT said, clearly the focus for the entire organization on the console level is a double-digit EBITDA margin, right? On an annualized basis. Quarterly, we would have challenges depending upon the environment, depending upon the kind of the project and a lot of other things. But on an annualized basis, both KPTL and JMC double-digit margin is given.
Yeah.
That's something which is non-compromisable as far as the entire organization is concerned.
Right. So the next question is, if you look today, JMC's order backlog has exceeded that of Kalpataru standalone, given the diverse markets in which it's present and the high growth categories. So as a portfolio, by when do you see JMC actually surpassing Kalpataru standalone? in terms of revenue as well as profitability?
I would love that to happen as early as this quarter. Remember we own 67% of JMC, so I'll be happy if it happens. But realistically, see, JMC's growth would be obviously much faster than KPTL, and we've been very, very clearly communicating that, right? JMC growing at 20% plus, it should not be a challenge at all. So realistically, a 20% plus growth for JMC is visible on top line. Bottom line also, they would continue to be a double-digit margin on an annualized basis. So from that perspective, I don't think we need to look at saying when will they overcome this, because it's not a race kind of thing, right? It's important that each of the organizations continue to grow to their best potential. So JMC growing 20% plus is not a challenge at all. KPTL growing at 10 to 15% should not be a challenge.
And my last question, if I can ask, given the backdrop that we have seen significant investments in the infrastructure and grid investments planned by the US, which of KPTL subsidiaries will be able to benefit, especially both the Brazilian as well as Linje? Can there be a play to benefit from those investments in the region, or you think it would be too early for those entities to participate?
No, I'm reasonably sure that both these entities will not be able to participate in the US market. Okay, I don't have any doubts in my mind. They will not be able to. So that's a growth which, is something which as of now, we would be looking at from India itself. We've been supplying towers to that part of the world for the last 10 years. On a larger EPC, that's something which might take us a lot more time to get in. We continue to explore opportunities of acquiring a smaller company there, but nothing is on the radar as of now, and I don't see anything happening in the current year.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Sheth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Manish ji and SKT.
Good morning, Bharat.
Good morning, Balbhai. Good morning.
Manish ji, first on this KPTL on the Railway International, so what stage we are and how really we are evaluating getting a better order?
So Bharat, our philosophy for international growth is a very simple philosophy. Right? We have 65 plus countries where transmission line we have had footprints for the last 10 years, 7 years, 8 years. We are utilizing that footprints to grow all the other segments, whether it is railways, oil and gas, roads, or buildings and factories. And you've seen that across the group. You've seen significant growth in international order book at JMC in the last 6 months.
Correct.
We have already communicated oil and gas. We've submitted 6-7 tenders in 6-7 countries. We've not been lucky till now, but that's the nature of our business, right? You need to be trying hard to make sure that you succeed.
Correct.
Even for railways, we have a similar strategy. We have shortlisted a few countries in Africa without getting into specific detail where we are focused as of now. Also, we continue to be looking at opportunities in the neighboring countries, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, for railway projects. And confident that over the next 6 to 9 months, we should be getting one order at least on railway in the international business.
Okay. And sir, you said a reduction in this KPTL standalone debt. How much are we really building in a cash inflow from the Indore project, and what is the status of that project?
So we are targeting cash inflow of approximately 150 plus crores in the current year as far as Indore project is concerned.
Okay.
Q1 did not been able to do much, primarily because of issues of COVID.
Correct.
Right? The project is nearly completed, except one building. All buildings have got OC. The last building also we expect OC to come sometimes in Q3.
Okay.
We expect a lot of sales to happen from the current quarter itself, and I am aware that in July itself we have seen 6-7 flats getting sold.
Okay.
So we expect cash flow of approximately minimum of 150 crores coming in the current year on Indore.
Okay. Sir, and last question on this KPTL, are we really looking Linte Montage position in African market from where we have currently a sanction or a temporary imposition of this not bidding in African market? So are we really evaluating that opportunity?
No, not at all, Bharat Bhai. KPTL in no transmission projects would be allowed to bid till October in wherever World Bank and funded opportunities are available. So till October, we are not utilizing this at all. As far as Linje Montage is concerned, the focus of Linje Montage is more the Nordic market, and that is clearly what is going to drive growth for them, and nothing beyond Nordic market as of today.
So I mean, in Nordic market, a lot of solar projects are coming up, and they are going very aggressively on renewable. So how one really look at, I mean, over a 2-3 years time frame on Linje Montage position?
So you're right. A lot of renewable focus in the Nordic market will also entail a lot of opportunities on power transmission, distribution, and cabling jobs.
Correct.
Right? And we see that we've seen last 2 years that business has grown by closer to 100%. From the time we acquired to where we are today, we have doubled ourselves on every aspect. We expect this business to continue growing by 15-20% at the minimal from the Sweden market itself.
Okay.
Beyond that, we continue to explore opportunities in the neighboring countries. That could be additional growth, but as of today, we'll not be able to give you a targeted number for that.
Okay. Sir, on now coming to this JMC, we have already order win till June, plus L1 is around 6,000 crore. So why we are giving target of around 7,000 crore only order inflow? If you can say more thought process, or really we will expect to revisit post Q2.
So, Bharat Bhai, we will definitely relook, but at the same time, we will remain cautious in terms of the order booking, keeping the quality in mind, right? With the good order book in hand, we will be very selective going forward, and we will be more focusing on the delivery, which is paramount in this business. So, yes, there is an opportunity, but we will be very selective, and hence we will be cautious. Yes, the 6,000 may become plus minus another 5-10%, but we are not looking forward some big leap jump on those numbers.
So just to add to that, Bharat Bhai, it's important, and as SKT rightly said, it's important to make sure the delivery catches up in the same speed. We have built a team, we're confident it will deliver. Because today, if you look at numbers, we have a 4-year visibility on order book, right? And that's healthy in some form, but that's also challenging in some form. Right? So our aim is, yes, we will continue to take good orders, as SKT clearly said, but it's not that we're going to make that 7,000 become 15,000, something like that. Plus minus 1,000 crores can happen, but nothing beyond that.
And sir, on asset side, this Kurukshetra is really a problematic since, I mean, last couple of quarter, plus earlier also some kind of agitation is always. So is there any other way are we really evaluating for, I mean, whether surrendering this asset, or if you can give some color on that?
So, Bharat Bhai, currently we are pushing the restructuring, as we said in the last quarter, and it has been cleared by the lead banker, and we are looking at clearing that step first. As far as the other options are concerned, we are evaluating those options. We are not close to those options, but first we will focus what is really tangible in terms of reducing our cash outflow, as well as bringing sanity in the numbers. So other options will be kept open, but we are currently focusing on completing one task in the hand.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rakesh Vyas from HDFC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all of you. I have two questions, both related to JMC. First one, given that we have L1 plus order book of close to 18,000 crore, and as you highlighted, 4 years of order book. So why are we still guiding at only 20% kind of growth? Because I believe large number of these projects have to get executed in next 3 years time frame. So are we being too conservative, or are we seeing any challenges which deter us to look for a higher execution growth? That's point number one.
Right. So, Rajesh, good morning. See, 18,500 crore order book. So, I will not say that we will be conservative, but we will be cautious. As I replied earlier, that we will be focusing more on the delivery because that is what will matter. And if the delivery is right, I'm sure order book will not be issue even going forward, right? So we are not looking for explosive growth of 25% and all that because it has its own pros and cons. We will be cautiously moving in the range of 15 to 20, which is well manageable. And our verticals have a good visibility for next 5 to 7 years. So business is not going to run away anywhere. If we are there in the right health, we will catch up with the business.
And Rajesh, just to add to what SKT said, a lot of our international projects have a lot of components of design and approvals which take 6 to 9 months. Right? So effectively, a lot of our international order book, a significant revenue would start from the next year. Right? And that's why I think you'll see much better growth going into the next year as compared to the current year. But yeah, 20% plus is minimum.
Okay, that helps. Second is just extension to the earlier question that was asked on the asset. So essentially, given that this farmer agitation has been continuing for more than 6 months now, and I think in concession agreement there is a provision that if there is a lack of toll collection during this time frame, there is a opportunity to terminate the project, in which case we can get our equity investment and the debt outstanding due. So I'm just trying to understand, even post the financial restructuring that we are planning, is there a possibility that we can avail this option, because this window could probably be limited?
So Rajesh, you are right. And as I said earlier, we will first complete the restructuring part so that the bankers and the investors in that SPV, they are on the board. Once that part is aligned, this option, as we said, we will be evaluating, and since it will be a contractual entitlement, at the right point of time, we will look at that.
Great, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Swarnim Maheshwari from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, good morning and congratulations for riding through this volatile commodity prices. Sir, two set of questions. First, so what's really what happened on the working capital side? There is a sharp jump both QoQ, YoY. So is it more related to some sort of a vendor support, or there is some collection issues over here?
Good morning, Swarnim. So Swarnim, there are no issues on collection. Slight delays because of some clients not being available across Q1. But that's been a typical trend if you look at the history for the last 5 years, excluding the previous year. Right? Previous year was a COVID year. That Q1 debt always goes up by 200, 300, 400 crores because this is the quarter where we really push up payment to all the vendors and make sure that things are in line to achieve our annual target. So that's a trend. So I wouldn't say that there could be some delay in collections, but it's not that there's a significant delay in collections which have happened. We're confident that getting into Q2, this debt should start coming down, and by the end of the year, we'll be on targeted numbers of KPTL at negligible debt and JMC have closer to 500 plus crores at a net debt level.
So essentially, this is vendor support.
Sorry?
Essentially, this is the high working capital is due to the vendor support, which should actually come down gradually.
Yes. It's also vendor support, a few other aspects, but yes, significant payment has gone to vendors.
Got it. So secondly, you did mention about the KPTL targeted order intake of about 9,000 odd crores. So just wanted to understand what is the total opportunity size over here, the ordering pie over here, and what is our canvas?
So, the opportunity size is very different for different business learning. If you ask me on the transmission domestic side, we can see, tenders of approximately 10,000 plus crores coming over the next 6 months from a lot of SEBs and Power Grid, which is on the BOT project. On the international front, the opportunity will be very different a few months from now. You're aware that till October we have some restrictions, but after that we believe that the opportunity is much higher. It could be Africa, which continues to be our core focus, could be much, much higher. We're talking of maybe $500 to $600 million worth of opportunity to be bid over the next 2 quarters itself. As far as oil and gas is concerned, we're seeing a lot of traction on the domestic front also, with a lot of tenders coming in from GAIL, from IOCL, from GSPC, and we're pretty confident that achieving that 2,000 plus crores of order inflow would not be a challenge. As far as railways are concerned, again, tenders have started coming in, both for electrification, widening, as well as for metro projects. We have been slightly cautious given the competitive, intense competition in that sector, but pretty confident that we should be able to achieve that 1,500 to 2,000 crores what we have targeted.
All right. So, I mean, overall, I can say that the overall pipeline for you is close to about 45,000 crores, taking everything into consideration.
Yes, I think for KPTL, easily within the next 6 to 9 months, we will have tenders of 40 to 45,000 crores to be bid.
Great. And what would be the similar number for JMC, sir?
So JMC, if I go sector-wise, the opportunity scale will be plus 50,000 crore in every sector. So let it be the water or let it be urban infra as well as the international. So it will be plus 50,000 crore in each sector.
Got it. Got it. Sir, thank you so much. I'll come back in the queue and wish you all the best.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ranjit Shivram from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Just wanted to check regarding any thoughts on the strategic divestment of Shubham, which we have been planning for long. Any progress on that, or what are the thought process regarding Shubham? What we like to do?
So on Shubham, as we had communicated earlier, we had appointed advisors to look at the opportunity of getting either a strategic player or even a large player who would like to have a significant majority. Based on the evaluation done by our advisors, we believe that it might not happen very soon because the market for agri-logistics is not as bullish as some of the other markets. But we continue to do well on the operational front. So my own assessment is that this will get delayed for some time, and in the next couple of years, there might not be a disinvestment which will happen at Shubham. But at the same time, we're pretty confident that Shubham in the current environment with their leverage ratios and with the capital what they have, they will continue to grow one way on top line as well as profitability, and we might not have to infuse any further equity in Shubham.
Okay. And sir, if we wanted to get an update on the promoter pledge, and what is the progress on that as per the last discussion? So is that what is the overall sense on the promoter pledge, and how do they plan to reduce? We can update us on that.
Yeah, sure. So I think we can give you an update which all of us have. So promoters pledge has continuously come down over the last 3 quarters. In the previous quarter also, we saw a reduction of more than 5%. As of today, promoters pledge is around 45% of their holding. We had a commitment from the promoters that this will come down to 40% odd by December. So I think we're seeing continuous reduction in promoters pledge, and we're pretty confident that this will be at normal levels before the year end.
Okay, sir. Thanks and all the best. That's from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Runal Siyoni from Sharekhan. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. I had just a couple of questions. So first one is that, contracts being passed through. So we believe that not most of the commodity price hike like steel, cement are aptly visible in terms of escalation in this pass-throughs. So how confident are you that you would be able to pass through the impact of rising steel, cement, and other commodity prices because this must be linked to WPI, or which do not, factors in the proportionate rise in the materials.
Right. So you are partially right. See, in case of the commodity price rise and the escalation, there is a lag of 3 to 4 months. And normally, depending on the project to project and the way WPI indices in those areas, about 10 to 15% remains uncompensated. But at the same time, when the cycle reverses, it works other way, right? So that is why there will be some incremental loss due to the escalation, but majority of it will get covered, right? This is what historical, and our almost 90 to 95% contracts are covered under the escalation formula or pass through the developers directly. So we are okay with that price escalation and coverage by the escalation.
I'm assuming this is for JMC, right? This question is for JMC.
JMC. Yeah, right. So majority, you think you will be able to pass through.
Yeah.
Right. And second thing is that what kind of difference is there in terms of margins with respect to domestic and international projects in JMC?
Can you repeat your question?
The operating margin difference in domestic and international projects for JMC.
So international projects will be 2.5 to 3 basis points higher than the domestic in overall performance when we look at the job end. Incrementally, there will be wide variations, but historically, this is the trend we will be able to watch and see.
2.5 to 3 basis points difference. Or percentage
50 to 300. Sorry, 50 to 300 basis points. Sorry.
50 to 300. Higher margins are there in international. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jonas Bhutta from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir, and congratulations on a decent set of numbers given the current environment. So just one question that is on the JMC, sir. So the Maldives project, we were declared L1 way back in March. It's been quite some time now. Any particular challenges you're facing to convert that into a firm order, or just COVID-related, things that have sort of disrupted the entire decision-making process?
No, there is no challenge as such. Since it is a debt funding from the Government of India to EXIM, there are formalities at the government level which are getting into the place. And once the debt agreement between both the countries are signed, the credit lines will be open for disbursement of the advances. So I think that is the process. And of course, there was a COVID drag because Maldives was closed almost for 3 months. There was no in and out even flights there. So I think it should get into the shape in next 1.5 to 2 months' time. So there are no as such issues except the government level formalities.
Sure. And my second question was really trying to understand the upcoming opportunities in railways beyond, say, the 1 or 2 years, which still will have some backlog of orders coming in on the OHE side or the electrification side. What really, sir, would drive this business vertical going forward? Is it just the new line kind of construction business, so the civil part, or do you believe that from over the next 2 years, then beyond that, the railway opportunity should actually taper off? That will be my last question. Thank you.
So on the railway opportunity, even today, our order book, consists of more than 50%, which is more EPC projects, which is all expansion of lines. So our belief is while electrification opportunities could come down to normal levels in 2 years, there's been a big push over the last 3 years and will continue the next 2 years. But the opportunity on expansion of lines, on modernization, on electrification of metro projects, all of that will continue to be very big. So from that perspective, at least for the next 5 to 7 years, I don't see that business contracting in any form. Besides that, as I said earlier, for us, the international opportunity on railways also continue to be a big area of expansion. and we continue to remain focused on that. So getting into the next few years, while you'll see electrification slightly coming down, but expansion of lines and international will help us grow that business further.
Understood. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Anand from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So first is that in JMC, we have done a great job over the last, if I say 4-5 years, in ramping up the margin to double digit. Now my question is that with 15-20% sales growth for the next 3-4 years, what are the probabilities of JMC margins moving up maybe by 100-200 basis point higher? Do you see that happening in the medium term?
So, to answer you, our international basket will improve, but seeing the overall situation, the way the commodity price and rise, we remain committed to double-digit margin, but we are not making any significant movement there. But yes, it will remain range bound within double digit.
No, I'm saying if we just ignore the commodity inflation that's happening now, bit that will happen, let's assume in this year, next year, obviously everybody will factor the new commodity price, right? So that should be a part of the bid for everybody. So I'm looking more from the fact that your volumes are increasing drastically over the next 3-4 years, right? From where you are now. So there should be some leeway in terms of X of RM where you can, have a better margin. That's what I'm trying to understand.
So as I said, overall it will be a positive journey. Quantum, it will be difficult to quantify at this stage now, but you are right, there will be a positive moment.
Okay.
So just to add to this, what SKT said, that growth also brings in additional at all levels, right? So today, even after assuming that growth, we believe that the entire order book has a margins which continue to be in the range of 10 to 11%. And which is a very good margin. Our focus will be a lot more on generating free cash flows, right? That would be our bigger focus rather than focusing only on, getting into that margins situation. But as of today, a 10 to 11% is visible. Free cash flows would continue to improve significantly at JMC over the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. The second question is that I think you talked about, competition in the railway side from road EPC guys. If you can just elaborate a bit more in which segment and, are they really bidding very low, etc. If you can just give some more finer details on that.
Sure. So a lot of, over the last 3-4 months, at least 6-7 electrification projects, we have seen competition to the range of 15 to 20 players, right? A few of them have bid aggressive, which were not earlier in the railway side, but otherwise majority of them are plus minus 2-3%, but a few of them have gone aggressive. I wouldn't like to get into the specifying the names of them, but a few of them have gone very aggressive, and this we've seen over the last 6 months only.
But there would be some PQ related stuff, right, which would hinder them from maybe bidding for a large project or something, because they haven't got much experience on that field.
No, on the railway side, the PQ is very diluted. Yes, for larger projects, they had all come for the smaller projects of 100 to 200 crores. For larger projects above 500 crores, which are more EPC in nature, you're right. You still see only 5-6 players. But the smaller projects where the PQ is not so stringent, you're seeing many more players.
Yeah, okay. My last question, more strategic. See, both KPTL and GMC are now fairly large companies with anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000 crore of order book. If you combine, it's a very significant number in the Indian EPC space. How do you extract synergies between the two companies to bid large projects in India and abroad?
So as of today, extracting synergy is a teamwork which happens between different business units, and we don't have a challenge in that. So you would have seen a lot of projects, in railways which JMC wins and where KPTL works and vice versa. And even on the international footprint, whatever JMC has done over the last 1 year has been primarily taken based on the footprints of the transmission division, right? So we do not have any problem in terms of working together. At the same time, we continue to work on standardizing processes, systems within the two organizations. to see at an appropriate time if we could explore opportunities of merging the two things. But this would be completely dependent on the senior management's approval.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavin Vithlani from SBI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. If you could give us an outlook on specifically the buildings and the factory segment for JMC in terms of order flows, the opportunity varying between residential, airport, and other industrial related aspect.
Yeah. So opportunity across all the three segments are there: residential, commercial, as well as the factory. Factory side, always the volume has been less, which continue to be so. And residential, in the select market, there is a good opportunity, but in certain markets, the opportunities are low. There we are not focusing also. But as an overall strategy, we will be overall navigating in the B&F more towards the commercial. So there are opportunities in the residential compared to the commercial, but we are very selective because the gestation period of the residential projects become very high, and that is something which is not good for us. So that is how currently the outlook is on the overall B&F sector.
Just a clarification. Commercial will also include the data center projects?
Right. They include the data centers.
Yeah. The second part is on T&D domestic. If Manish, you could give us an outlook. And a couple of the equipment manufacturers have highlighted 3 to 4 large HVDC projects expected over the next 2 years. So does Kalpataru get an opportunity on the transmission line segment over a next 2-year basis? What is the kind of landscape that you are seeing on an annualized basis on the T&D domestic total addressable market for Kalpataru?
So Bhavin, let me divide this into 2 or 3 segments. First, to answer your question, 3 or 4 large HVDC lines. Yes, we expect those lines to come in the next 6 to 9 months, and that's a big opportunity. But getting into the details, as of today, on the TBCB side, there are around 12 projects which are up for bid over the next 3 to 4 months. And that could be a size of around 8 to 10,000 crores for both TL and substation. Right? So on this, we would be bidding along with any of the large guys as a EPC player, whether it's going to be PGCL or any of the private players. So that's one market. And that market would continue to be staying at levels of 10 to 15,000 crores on an annualized basis. Besides that, we're seeing a lot of opportunities coming from state level projects. So southern states, we see a lot of projects coming up, whether it is Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and even eastern states and northeastern states. That opportunity to us looks like a 5 to 10,000 crores easily opportunity, only in this 6-7 states, without even getting into the north and west, where we do not see too many opportunities coming up at the current environment. With this too, I believe 20 to 25,000 crores worth of bids on TLD should not be a challenge at all. Besides this, the neighboring countries, the SARC, which is done by our transmission domestic team, is also a good opportunity, whether it is Bangladesh, Nepal, or Sri Lanka. And that itself could be an opportunity of 3 to 5,000 crores on an annualized basis. So if I look at all of this together, which the TLD teams looks at, 30,000 crores worth of tenders on an annualized basis should not be a challenge.
Sure. And how large could be the HVDC opportunity which you expected over the next year or 2?
Which one, the HVDC?
Yes, please.
HVDC opportunity out of the 10,000 crores could be as high as 6 to 7,000 crores. On totality, out of which equipment could be only 20% or 25%, but the total opportunity could be in the range of 6 to 7,000 crores.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking my questions.
Thank you, Bhavin.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Seth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, Bharat.
In previous participant question, you replied about the senior management subject to merger of KPTL and JMC, subject to senior management approval. So are we really evaluating, if you can throw some light, or really this is a possible thing, scenario in coming quarters?
So Bharat bhai, as I mentioned earlier, right, our focus is right now a lot more on standardizing processes, systems, risk management, culture across the two organizations.
Correct.
And we've done a lot in that, right? If you look at the numbers of JMC versus KPTL over the last 4 years, right, you'll see everywhere that focus is coming. We are on the common platform of SAP. Our processes are nearly same. Our SOPs are very well detailed and very similar to each other. And the teams, the culture of getting things done at any cost with a particular margin is what is driven across the organization. So we're working on that. At the same time, we continue to explore this opportunity, and at the right time, I'm sure we would be presenting this to the board, and depending upon how the boards react to it, we will take it further.
Okay, great. And one last bookkeeping question on KPTL. The other expenses has shoot up substantially. So is there any one-off?
Yes, and I was expecting this to come up. Yes, there's a significant increase in the freight cost, and closer to a $3 million impact has come in freight in Q1 on some of our international delivery on some of our projects. So for the current year, at the current freight levels, we expect a hit of around $6 million, out of which $3 million we've already taken in Q1. And that's a significant increase which has come in.
And that is the only thing. Otherwise, rest of are normal.
Yeah, rest are normal.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Ms. Bhumika Nair for closing comments.
Yes, I would just like to thank everyone for being on the call and the management opportunity to host you, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Bhumika. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of DAM Capital Advisors Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.